Okay, I'm just going to take a short digression from my digression and talk about what are some basic data structures like a list and a data frame. We've been talking about these, we've been using these words. I thought it might be good to talk about it a little in detail. I'm going to just go through the discussion from this book, Using R for Data Management, Statistical Analysis, and Graphics by Nicholas Horton and Ken Kleinman. So I'm just going to go through this one section. So a list is an ordered collection of objects that are indexed using this operator. So that just means that, well, let's take an example. So here we're creating a variable called new list, and we're using the list operator we're going to create a list. And it's just going to have something called x1 in it with the characters, with the string hello, and x2 equal to 42, and x3 equal to true. And so now it's just ordered in the sense that this is the first element in the list. First they're just checking to see, is it really a list? So they apply something called is it a list, basically, is list, and it says true. Now if we print out new list, we see that the first element, which I guess is can be considered a variable, it has a $sign in front of it, is hello, and the second is 42, and the third is true. Okay, so it's just a grouping of items, but you can talk about the first one, the second one, the third one, and so forth. So it's an ordered collection of objects. And then to access a particular element, how do you do that? So how do I access x1, this x1 element, which is hello? How do I access x2, which is 42, and so on? So you can use this double bracket operator, and to get the second element in the list, meaning this element, you would put in 2 in here. And to contrast that with if this was a data frame, what would this give us? You might remember that this will give, if this was a data frame, this would give us the second column. I'm sorry, this would give us the second column. If this new list was actually a data frame, then using the 2 there would give us the second column. But here it's giving us the second element in the list. Now, you should realize that an element in a list could be a vector. Like in this list, we've only created single elements for each element in the list, but we could have had multiple elements for, say, the second element in the list. In fact, let's try that. So let's see. Here I'm creating a new list, calling it new list rather, and using the list operator. The first thing is hello there. Second element is this vector from 1 to 5, and the third element is this vector, like that. So if I print out new list, I see I get the results like this, and I can do isList just to make sure that it's actually a list. It says true. And then if I check here the second element, I see that it's all of these. Okay, now let me just make a little change here just to show you that it doesn't matter what you call the elements in the list. Like this is called x1, this is called x2. Then I renamed this, instead of x3, I renamed it k. It doesn't matter. It still accepts it. And then when I type in new list and the third element, it gives me this, ABC. Okay. And another way to access the elements of the list is to use this notation here. So let's try that. So I'll type in new list, $, and suppose I want the third element, which was K. So I get that. Okay? So you can also access elements of the list that way. Okay, now let's talk about matrices. Matrices are rectangular objects, so with 2 dimensions, so it can be like a 3 by 4 matrix or something. So this matrix here, you can see, has 3 columns and 2 rows, so it's a 2 by 3 matrix. You say the row first, the number of rows first. So let's see how to create a matrix. Let's create a vector. So I created a vector using the concatenation operator. And now let's create a matrix. So I'll create something called new m, and I use the matrix operator. And the matrix operator, we're going to put in 3 arguments. So we want to fill in 3 arguments. And the first thing is the elements of the matrix. And so I can just use x, because x is already a vector. So I'm just saying I want these elements. Now, and then I have to tell it the number of rows and the number of columns. So I want to have something that makes this sort of fit in nicely. So suppose I do a 2 by 5. Okay, and let's see what happens. And now let's print it out. And it's 2 rows by 5 columns. Okay, suppose I did it differently. Suppose I said new m2 equals matrix, and still use x. But let's try, well, okay, let's just make it simple. Obvious, but let's just do that. Okay, so now it's 5 columns. I'm sorry, 5 rows and 2 columns. But let's try this. This is a little strange. Let's try, let's see what happens when I do this. So what might happen? Oh, by the way, we need to, we also should mention something else, and that is, let's see, how do they count? How do the entries get entered into the matrix? Does it go 1, 2, 3? No, it doesn't go that way, right? What does it do? It goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So it goes column, first column, second column, third column, fourth column, fifth columns. So same thing here. It's the same vector, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Does it go 1, 2, 3, 4? No. It goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. It goes like that. Okay, now let's do something strange. So we're going to make a matrix which has more elements than the vector x has. So what does it do then? So what does it do? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and then it starts repeating x again. And let's suppose that it doesn't even fit. I mean, it's not divisible. In other words, like this. Let's suppose we did 3 or 7 by 3. So now what's it going to do? Whoops. Oh, it gives you a warning. Okay, so it gives you a warning, but let's see what happens. Does it allow me to, I mean, what's in this, if anything? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So do you see? It gave me a warning, but a warning doesn't mean it doesn't do it. Okay, a warning is just like a little message to you, but it's not an error. There's a difference between a warning and an error. Okay, so if a warning, an error wouldn't let you do it, but a warning, it lets you do it, but it gives you some kind of message here. So what does it say? In matrix there, data length 10 is not a submultiple or multiple of the number of rows 7. Okay. All right. So That's a matrix. Now, by the way, if you want it, what would happen if I did this? Sorry. If I did this, 3 comma bracket. So that means, so remember rows and columns, it's row and the row comma column. So that's the third row. And then nothing for the, no special specificity for the column. Nothing is specified for the column. So what would that mean? What that means is we're going to include all the columns because no specific column is mentioned. So it's row 3 and all the columns. No, it's not. Sorry, I typed in the wrong thing there, right? It should be new M2. Try that. Okay, so it's the second row, and I'm sorry, the third row, and nothing is specified for the column, so it's all the columns. Okay, how about this? Just let's just try this. What would this mean? What would that mean? So it's the third row, and then the element, the column is the column or columns are specified by a vector 1 comma 2. So in other words, it's going to give us just the first and second columns of the third row, 310, right? And of course you could do something like this. No, couldn't do something like that. But you could do something like that. Okay? And of course one more you could do that. Okay, so the third row, second column. Okay, so that's matrices. Now, I believe that I'm right when I say that matrices and matrices have to all have the same, not lists, but matrices have to have the same type of elements in them. So you can't have numbers and characters in the same matrix as elements in the matrix. But that's not true for lists, which we already saw, and that's not true for data frames either. So let's check out data frames. So let's read this. The main way to access data is through a data frame, which is more general than a matrix. It's a rectangular object similar to a data set in other statistics packages. So, you know, if you have a data set like in Excel, you know, it'll consist of rows and columns, and this is basically that. And in Excel, when you have a data set, they don't all have to be of the same type. They don't all have to be numbers or all strings or all characters. They can be some strings and some numbers and some characters and so on. So if you're thinking of a data set, usually you're going to use a data frame to load it into and store it as. Okay? So as opposed to a matrix, which consists of vectors of the same type. Okay? The function's data frame, so this will make something into a data frame, whatever you put in here, read.csv, which we've seen numerous times, and read table return data frame objects. So if you store something using read CSV, the result, that stored object, is going to be a data frame. A simple data frame can be created using the data frame command. Access to sub-elements is achieved using the $sign operator as shown below. So let's look at this example. We've done this before, but okay, now they already defined somewhere else before this a vector x which has 5, 7, 9, 13, -4, and 8 in it. Now they're defining a new variable, or it's actually going to be a vector, and the way they're going to do it is they're going to use this operator which just says repeat whatever you put in here. So if you repeat 11, you'll get 11, 11, 11, and so on. And how many times are they going to repeat 11? This is another operator, we haven't seen it yet, called the length operator, which you can apply to get the length of a vector. So the length of x, which was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So they're going to repeat 11 6 times. 11, 11, 11, 11, 11, 11. And so now they can create a data frame using x and y, concatenating x and y, so to speak, like this. Remember, we've done this before. And this will be the first column, and this will be the second column. And then we can check, is data frame, is it a data frame? And it says true. And then we can access elements like this. So $x3, x3, remember x was a vector, and 3 means select the third element of x. And so when we do this on the data frame, we're getting this element here. Okay, so actually, I read it a little different. It's a little different than that. This actually refers to what? The first vector in the data frame, which is x, and then we're going to choose the third element. So it's 9. Okay, and then we can also take the mean of the data frame. We've seen this before, and it gives us the mean of the columns for each column. And we can also do the same thing for the standard deviation. Okay, and just for your information, we didn't look at this at all, but they're saying note that the use of data frame, so you can use data frame, we did data frame with x and y, and we got this thing which is a data frame. Now you could also do something similar, but instead of data frame x and y, you could use this other operator called cbind, column bind, right? X and y, and you'll get something that looks like a data frame, but it's not a data frame. It actually is a matrix. So if we did cbind x and y, we'd get something that looks very similar to a data frame. So we get this. It looks very similar to what we got before. In fact, can we detect any difference between this and the data frame? Well, maybe not. Or can we? So look at this. This is the data frame we got. And look at this. Is there any difference? Yeah, it's these things, just these markers over here on the left. And remember, these were for matrices, not for data frames. So this is actually a matrix. So you might say, well, it's not any different, but it can be different. For example, some functions are meant to be applied to data frames, and if you try to apply it to this, it may not work, or it may give you something that you don't expect. Okay? So there are some differences between data frames and matrices. We said, for example, that matrices all have to have the same type of vectors. So anyway, you could, if you use this, you'll get something similar, but it's a matrix. Okay, whereas if you used this, you'd get a data frame. So you might want one or the other. And you can see that we tested, is this a data frame? No. Is it a matrix? Yes.